Hey, it's Ivy here, host of Feng Shui It. Make sure and hit that subscribe button and make sure and definitely give us a like for today. Check out our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/fengshui_TV. So thanks for joining us for part 2 of our interview with Sharon. We're learning about shamanism, and in this segment, we were fortunate enough to be allowed to have our cameras capture some footage of Sharon leading her local shamanic drumming circle. The group begins the session by first establishing a clear intention for their journey. After a short discussion of the topic, Sharon prepares the group to shift from ordinary consciousness into a trance state. Sharon leads the group by pulling up the circle with the drum, followed by an exercise to move the assemblage point to get themselves centered, and they release their energetic debris to be able to connect to a divine space. Once this is done, each person places their body into a relaxed position. The drumming begins again, and each person appears to shift into trance. While in trance, each person individually interacts with their compassionate spirits to gain help for themselves or for others. This may include direct spiritual healing or healing for another person who has requested help. Some journeys provide information for restoring power, while others remove negative energy or provide spiritual guidance. At the end of the shamanic journey, the drumming shifts to a faster beat, and the circle appears to return their consciousness to their body. They gently open their eyes and immediately begin writing the details of their journey. Once everyone is done recording their experiences, some people choose to share their experience and insight with the group. One interesting aspect I noticed while observing was that the group's interaction with their spiritual guides appeared to transcend space and time. The time it would have taken to receive this much information from their spiritual guides was far longer than the 10 to 15 minutes the drumming was being played. These phenomena can only be explained and supported by a quantum physics explanation of time. Wow, that was truly an amazing journey. All right. I want to dig deeper into shamanism. I want to ask you about some terms and some things that some of our audience members may have heard and may not truly understand. The first thing I want to talk about is soul retrieval. What is soul retrieval? Because that sounds complicated. Well, that sounds really complicated. What are we retrieving the soul from?
Well, let's back up one step before the retrieval and talk about soul loss a little bit.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, so because it's really, you kind of,
we got to talk about
why are you doing this?
Right.
Soul loss in shamanism is where, as a result, generally of some trauma, part of the soul, in order to survive, splits off and goes into hiding.
So this is like a trauma, like from automobile accident, physical abuse.
It can be much smaller than that.
Really?
It can be an extreme embarrassment as a child.
Really? Okay.
You know, those situations where, oh, I can't handle this,
Gotcha.
and something splits off and then goes into hiding.
Okay.
Most of us have had at least this happen to some degree.
That one thing that we remember, yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it, but I remember it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
So what the shaman does is, to be honest, in my practice, I'll talk about general and then I'll talk about my practice a little bit. The shaman goes into the other realms to locate that part for the person and convince it to return. Mm-hmm. In my practice, I found that a lot of times it's a very good idea for the person to have done some extraction work and some powering up work first, for the simple reason that I'll say, look, I don't waste your money. Let's make sure that soul part has a welcoming place to come home to,
right,
that's cleaned out, that with what you do, you certainly understand the flow of. Then when that part is brought back, whether I go searching in the realms for it or one of my helpers brings it back, which happens pretty frequently, in honesty, when we're clearing things out, and then the parts will start coming back because they've got a welcome home place again, that they feel safe to return again. And that's really what it's all about. As those parts return, the person gets closer and closer to complete wholeness.
Right, and that's one of the next questions I was going to have is, what is the extraction method of healing? And that's
you kind of touched into that, and that is similar to Feng Shui. It's kind of like, in my practice, it's that room that everyone keeps the door closed, or they walk past it and they go, oh, not today, or that office desk, or that drawer that you just close back up, or that closet. It's the same thing. If it's not welcoming, we avoid it, and you can immediately find out where there's stagnant qi in Feng Shui, because that's the room that you're keeping closed. That's the room no one ever goes into. That's the one the dog even keeps going and going, no way, not today. You're not going in there. I sure as heck aren't going in there. So, yeah, it's the same thing. So, but let's talk about extraction, because you mentioned that, having that clean place to come back to. So,
yeah, and it's really, that is classically a big part of what shamans have done and still do throughout the millennium, is go into altered consciousness, get their helping spirits to help them, and sometimes you even you do a merge with them and let them do the seeing with you, and look for those things that don't belong in the physical body of the client. And then, again, you always do it powered up, get those things removed. There's various methods of removing them, and then they are sent to water, through a flame, whatever, to be transmuted.
what is shamanic divination?
Shamanic divination is the other really big part of shamanism.
Because there's a lot of misnomers about this, and there's a lot of fear just from lack of knowledge. So I really want to kind of simplify this for our audience and let them understand what it is and what it's not.
Yeah. Well, it's not fortune telling, that's for sure.
No, it's not fortune telling, but a lot of people believe this. I mean,
it's though it can give you information from the future sometimes as well, but more importantly, it was necessary for the shaman to go into other realms to get the information for the tribes to survive. An example would be before the hunters went out, the shaman would go and literally do a journey to see where the caribou that were necessary for the hunt to be successful, for the tribe to literally survive, were located. And yet also they would go many times they'd go another step. They would actually do a journey to the spirit of the caribou themselves and say, okay, is there one that is willing to sacrifice themselves for the for the tribe?
Wow.
And have that's how much of an interaction in the past there was.
It's a give and take relationship.
Give and take relationship.
Everyone knew what their role was.
Yeah, and that's why, when you see the Native American peoples always thanking the animal for its life when they went for the hunt, only hunting for that was they absolutely needed.
To have and use every single piece of it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
That's one part of it. Today, it comes into play much more than people would realize. It's like, yes, we're concerned about the term, but it's going and seeking the knowledge and permission. I'm actually doing divination when someone calls me and I say, do I have permission to consult my spirits on your behalf? Going in and saying, okay, guys, is this somebody we can help? What do we need to do for this person? That is not really, diagnostic's the wrong word. We have to be very careful about that term, but what do we need to be doing to help this person with spiritual healing and getting the direction. That's really what this is all about. It's learning, and anybody can learn to go to their compassionate helping spirits and ask questions. Now, understand, then you develop your own language with them, because they may speak to you, they may show you a movie, you may have an actual conversation, you may smell something, you may have an emotion from it.
They're going to come to you the best way that they feel is going to be the least intrusive for you, but most effective.
Exactly. Right. They'll meet us more than halfway.
Right.
And they're really
very compassionate while doing it. I mean, it's
very much so.
Very much so. They're giving, as long as you're willing to be open and accepting and kind of humble about it.
But it's also nice sometimes to let them kind of come here. There's something in the practices that reappeared many, many times through lots of the cultures called an animal dance. And you literally, that's their turn to come back here, particularly with the animal spirits. A lot of them have been here before. I mean, they refer to this as the pain reality, which kind of tells you something, but they still are willing to come back. So what you do is you turn the drum on and you invite them. And this is where the shape-shifting that you hear about in shamanism tends to come in. because you invite them, you do the drum, you literally say, okay, come on, you can have my body for a little bit, let's dance around the room. And whether it's you're helping spirits or a badger or a rabbit or a deer, elk, turtle, you let them experience here for a little bit as a way of kind of saying thank you for their help and protection and compassion.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned in your own practice, and this is kind of backing up a little bit to your own practice, you teach people to journey and you teach people to become stronger from within in order to work at various areas of their life. But can you train a person to be a shaman, or is this something that they're kind of born with and just discover as they're aging, or are there classes you can take to learn to be a shaman, or how does this whole thing work? I mean,
it's kind of one of those any and all of the above.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, definitely throughout history, people have been both through family lineages born into it, or some traumatic event, which is kind of like mine with my illness, called to it as you were. And then, but in reality, for a day-to-day practice, really almost anybody can train to do shamanic journeying. Okay. Now, that's not to say they're going to become a shamanic practitioner or a shaman.
Sure.
Okay? There's a history and a tradition where a person does not typically call themselves a shaman. If you are successful and the spirits choose to work with you and you help people, and miracles occur sometimes, literally, is a phrase that Michael uses, then people may start to call you a shaman. Mm-hmm. That's why you'll hear me say, I'm a shamanic practitioner.
Okay.
Okay? But again, back to people learning, yes. And that's what the foundation, what I do with there's actually two ways that the foundation has. They train people with something called the Harner Shamanic Counseling Method, which is a one-on-one learning how to journey. Okay. And it's one of the few that uses a little bit of technology, because you literally learn to be in a journey and talking your journey at the same time. So you capture it.
Okay.
So it's a wonderful process, but that is done one-on-one, because you couldn't have a whole class, workshop of people all talking into microphones at the same time. That's a little tough. So there's also weekend workshops, and everybody with the foundation's work at least starts with the basic, which does teach you how to do journeying, a little bit of divination, and also how to do power animal retrieval.
Right, that's pretty amazing. Now, what sort of training did you do in order to be a shamanic counselor?
Well, it certainly wasn't one workshop.
You didn't just take like an online course and now you can say, pay your $300 and say you've done it. I mean, this is a lot of work. And beyond the classroom work, there's probably a lot of spiritual work that happened that's so far not documented on paper, but that you've probably experienced just in your life. I mean.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, with all of this, I stay humbly in awe of what I see the spirits do.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
I really do. But in terms of training, the fancy term is I am a gold certificate holder with the foundation, which means I've pretty much taken all of the workshops that they offer, and also the 2-week intensive that they do, and the advanced 3-year program, which literally meets twice a year for 3 years with lots of work in between. Mm-hmm. So no, this was certainly not a one weekend.
Right.
And I'm also a full Mesa carrier under the Four Winds lineage as well.
Oh, wow.
So I've gotten that training as well.
Okay.
So no, that's kind of how I roll. I want to know more than I need to know about something, mm-hmm. and then go forward and teach it, because really that improves you as a teacher.
It does.
To be able to, if you know the big picture, then it's much easier to simplify and break it down and feed it in the parts.
Right, right. How can a practitioner incorporate shamanism into their practice? So if I were a massage therapist, let's just call something that's something easily relatable to, how could I incorporate shamanism into my practice with doing massage therapy? I mean, or any practice, really.
Really, once you get the ability to journey down, you can really, get to where you're going very quickly. Mm-hmm. So the answer to that to me would be, first thing off the top of my head would be, okay, when your client comes in, or right before your client comes in, before you walk in that massage room, stop for a minute. Do a short journey. Ask, what areas do you need to emphasize? What areas of this client's body need the most emphasis on? Which is what's going to be better for them. Obviously, you have to honor client's request.
Sure.
But you literally could go and ask, okay, what do I need to do?
So this could
What's
be
gonna
applied
better?
really to any area.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Absolutely.
Yeah, anything you do, you could really use this to strengthen your practice.
The spirits will give us information as long as we ask. But the key is we always have the right to turn it on or off.
Right.
We have free will. They have to wait for us to ask.
So that kind of bridges me into my next question with you. So being not only a practitioner, but an educator of this, do you ever reach burnout? What's your burnout like? Or when's your point that you have to say, I need a little bit of quiet time. I don't want to think, I don't want to try, I just want to lay here and rest. Is there ever a time that you feel completely overwhelmed, or not necessarily overwhelmed, but just the time that you go, okay, can you turn this off?
Oh, well, I'll shorten it to make it quick. Yes, the short answer is you can definitely turn it off.
Okay.
Now, understand, I'm also a stone sculptor.
Right.
So if I need to work my frustrations out, I can always go beat on a rock.
That's right. Talk about grounding yourself, right?
Exactly. And I will literally say to people when they call me, consult as a client, I said, look, whether you work with me or not, I don't get hung up on that. But please, whoever you choose to work with, if you're working with a shamanic person, make sure they operate fully in both realms. They're very much operating here, and they also can operate in the spirit realms. They're not off in la-la land all the time.
Right.
Okay? So, that said, and then I jokingly make a comment, I beat on rocks for a living. I'm not sure how much more grounded you can get than that, because it's got to stand up when I finish, finish carving it.
Yeah.
But, that's just really a large part of it. The other part of it is, most of the time, you develop a relationship with your spirits. You set the boundaries. My guys know that they're not to give me information about somebody unless I have that person's permission or it's in for my safety.
Right.
Then same thing. But occasionally they'll get overexcited about something. They really, really I never had it happen. It was like I had a good buzz on. I was getting ready to go teach down in Beaufort last July, and all of a sudden I couldn't focus, and it was going on, and I stopped and said, what is this? And I realized that they were just overjoyed and excited that they were going to have some other people that wanted to learn to communicate with them.
Right, right.
And so I said, okay, fine, guys, have your fun. And literally went about my way and forgot a few things in the process because they weren't letting me focus, but that's okay. It all worked out. But got on the road, and the traffic was bad, and I had to say, guys, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your attention and protection, but I've got to focus. Light switch.
Flip it off.
Flip it off. They let me turn loose. I was focused and all the way back.
So you're always in control is the biggest message
Absolutely.
that I think we have with this, is that you're the one that's still in control, and that they pretty much, there's rules to this thing, to the spiritual world, and they follow the rules very well. Only us, those of us here on earth don't like to follow rules very much, but the spiritual world is pretty receptive they're extremely receptive to what the rules are.
And that's part of what you're teaching when people come to learn, that gratitude and respect in the spirit world go a heck of a long way. And saying, not demanding, letting the ego go and saying, hey, I would really appreciate the help. Can you help me? Give me some information on this. Those types of approaches usually work much better.
Right, right. So what kind of backgrounds do your students have? Because you're all over the place teaching this information in South Carolina, right? That's a pretty large area of very differing people. South Carolina is a small state, but the areas of our state are very, very diverse, from the mountain communities to the coastal communities. So what kind of backgrounds do you have as students that are seeking this knowledge?
It runs the gamut.
Okay.
Certainly I have counselors come that are wanting additional information to be able to help their clients. again, I have to teach them the permission issue with
Right.
that. Thing like the example I gave you with the massage therapist, the key is, asking what do I need to know. But in terms of students, I mean, I've had the gamut from ministers coming, medical practitioners of varying sort, massage therapists and physical therapists. I've had nurses come. I've had teachers come. I've had college professors come. I mean, it really, and then, just young people that are realizing, oh, there's more to this than I
Meets the
thought.
eye, right?
I mean, I do have an 18-year-old limit.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they've got to be adults.
Sure.
But absolutely, it really does run the gamut. Now, it does tend to be older sometimes, and by older I mean over 35, because people are usually pretty busy with their other parts of their lives
Right.
before then.
Right.
But it's anyone who really wants to open up and focus and gain access to much more information than they really have in the regular world.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking with us today and teaching us about shamanism. If you have any questions for Sharon, her contact information will be listed on our website at fengshuiit.com. Thanks for joining us today, and that's it for now. And now it's your turn. Thanks for following me. So today we're going to take a question from Maya Leah Sherazin. Hey, so thanks so much for sending in your question to our Wonder Why Wednesday on our Facebook page. You too can add a question to our Wonder Why Wednesday Facebook page right here below in the description. We have all the information on how you can submit your question and have a chance to win some cool Feng Shui gear. So let's get to her question. She has a really long question. So she says, yes, I have a question. Yep, I see. When using the Bagua map for a 2-story home, and the Bagua map does not fit on the 2nd story the same as it does on the 1st story, because the foyer occupies an area of the map, but the ceiling in the foyer is the 2nd story ceiling, do I place the Bagua map over the exact space as I did on the 1st floor anyway? This would exclude the area of the 2nd floor entirely, counting it as a missing area, but including the steps that are from the 2nd story floor and up as being in the 2nd story Bagua map. But if I'm to include the top area of the staircase in the 1st story Bagua map, then wouldn't I create a Bagua map sectioned out differently for the 2nd floor, with the stairway and the missing area above the foyer both excluded? Hashtag Wonder Why Wednesday. That was a mouthful, okay? That's a super duper uber long question, but let's get down to the basis. Basically, what you're wanting to find out is, how do you apply a Bagua to the 2nd floor when the 2nd floor does not have rooms in the exact same areas as the 1st floor does, or there's a 2-story foyer basically? You're still always going to apply that Bagua to the 2nd story home in the same orientation and position as you did for the 1st floor. It does not matter if there's a 2-story foyer. As you mentioned, and you kind of answered for yourself, that's just the missing area, okay? And in a lot of places, in a lot of homes and residences, they're going to be missing areas. We don't do anything different than we would do for any other area that's a missing area on a Bagua map. We're going to enhance that area. We're going to anchor it with whatever we need to anchor it with energetically. We're going to do the exact same things. It's just the foyer is just two stories. Taking note of the staircase in both the 1st and the 2nd story Bagua reading is fine. Staircases present their own challenges. When we're talking about a staircase, we have to consider the orientation of the staircase. We have to consider the shape of the staircase to determine how we should alter chi speed in that area, while also ensuring that we're feeding enough details and elements in that area to adequately feed the upstairs. Okay, so we got a lot of things going on when we're talking about staircases, but your question is really just about the orientation of the Bagua. apply the bagua to the second floor, exactly like you're going to do the first floor, and you're not going to have any problems. You got a missing area, fix it, right? Just go ahead and add the cures, add the things you need to do to balance it. So every Wednesday, we are taking Wonder Why Wednesday questions on our Facebook page. As I said before, check out the description, gives you information on how to get there. And Myalea, we're sending your gift pack out to you. Thanks for following us, guys.
Up next is your DIY Design Evasion Tip. So today we're talking about how to hang your faceted crystal. On a previous show, I've already talked about how to choose the right faceted crystal. So today I'm going to show you how to hang those wonderful faceted crystals you've already chosen. As I mentioned before, faceted crystals are sometimes used to correct energy imbalances. I usually use clear fishing wire to hang my crystals. And just to show you what that looks like, it's just clear fishing wire. You may find that some books tell you to use a red string because the color red is believed to be an auspicious color that activates qi in Feng Shui. Whichever you choose is totally fine, and if you choose to use the red, it's just a red string. You should always choose to cut your string or your fishing wire by multiples of 9. And all that means is simply, if you're using your ruler, centimeters, inches, meters, doesn't matter what, just count by 9. So 9, 18, 27, so on. You get the point. But you're going to cut it by those multiples of 9 because 9 is believed to be auspicious in Feng Shui. So hang your crystals using a small nail, push pin, or a hook. Choose a place where the crystal won't be disturbed by children, pets, or people bumping into them with their heads. As with any wellness work, always set an intention while hanging the crystal. Tell the universe exactly what you want from this experience. An example of an intention would be something like, I'm grateful that I always have more than enough support in my career. It does not have to be complicated or difficult to come up with. Keep it simple and believe it will manifest. I hang crystals throughout my living space and workspace, and I've found that they work well in areas where qi moves too fast or too slowly. Remember, it's important to know the proper way to clean and clear your crystals. Cleaning and clearing are two totally different processes. Cleaning your crystal involves removing the debris you can see on the crystal, so like fingerprints or dirt. But clearing your crystal involves removing the energetic debris from your crystal. So you can go to my website at fengshui-it.com and find out exactly how to clean and clear your crystals. And that has been your DIY Design Evasion Tip.